Oh, my necky. Hi, everyone. It is me, Sailor Neptune. Michelle here, Sailor SeaWorld here. And today I'm going to talk about, worship in Sailor Moon. Now, the grounds to why I bring up worship in Sailor Moon is that two worships tend to show up a lot in Sailor Moon. CHRISTDOM and Shintoism or whatever the English word for that would be. Now, a lot of folks out there might say, "Oh well, worship doesn't have anything to do in Sailor Moon." But I guess you would kind of be right, but you'd kind of be wrong. First off, how did the Sailor Fighters get their might then? Because God had given it to them. God had deemed them worthy to have the might. Now, a lot of folks might be against that and say that I was wrong for saying that. But that's their belief. So, CHRISTDOM only shows up maybe 2 times in Sailor Moon. And the first following of Sailor Moon handled a little unlike between Deke and Viz. Deke one goes that Molly and that Serena and Malvin and Molly are out, and there happens to be a holy man out, and Molly is sad because she is still missing Nephrite, and asks him if he could help her, and says that she had a friend, but he's now dead now, and she's frightened that she'll not forget him. And he goes, "You won't forget him if you keep him in your heart." Now, he wouldn't want you to be sad forever, would he? She said, "No, but I don't got anyone left." He said, "That's not true. You got your friends, and I saw you with them. It's at these times we could really have friendship." Now, Zoisite comes after this holy man who doesn't have a name or doesn't come up, because he happened in his past life or happened to have a rainbow hearse in him, so a fiend takes over him. And once Sailor Moon heals him, God and Jesus working through Sailor Moon heals him, he goes, "I must tell the world about this, about fighting. We must work hard to clean it from our lives." Now, that was how Deke handled it. Cloverway handled it almost the same. Now, Viz handled it almost the same way, only the holy man says, "You should not be sad because your friend is up in heaven now with God and Jesus now. If and that you'll never forget him as long as you keep him in your heart." She goes, "But I miss him so much." "Yes, but we will always remember our friends and kin," he says. "And he's up in heaven with God and Jesus now. He's at rest now, good stead." Then Zoisite goes up and shames him for being a holy man, puts him down for worshiping God and Jesus, or whatever, and then shifts him into the fiend. And then when God and Jesus working through Sailor Moon heals him in the Viz one, he goes, "Do you believe in God and Jesus? Well, I do. Go to your fellow man and woman." Now, the only other time that it comes up again would be in the 4th following, when Tiger's Eye goes after a holy woman, thinking that Helios is in her dream. Why? I don't know. And then, says that, and goes after her and makes some kind of, thing about how he thought he needed help, but that's not true. Well, in the Viz one, he then says that you should love everyone, even if they are sinful. And she goes, "Well, that's true. God and Jesus taught us to love every man, woman, and child, even if they be sinful or not." And then he says, "Oh, did she really think that God and Jesus would help her?" And so, yeah, it comes up, but sadly, it's handled unlike. Now, Shintoism gets after Sailor Moon, Well, after all the Sailor fighters help her, and both offshoots, Luna is angry at Artemis because she thinks that Artemis is thinking about the Holy One, but he's really thinking about the worship house, and both takes. Now, when it comes to Shintoism, it's only seen between Rei and her grandfather, who runs a worship house. But that's it. I mean, yeah, Rei's grandfather shows up a lot, and Rei shows up a lot, and there's times where she is doing this, the holy fire, but in neither offshoots of it does Rei really talk about her worship that much. I mean, but a lot of folks do tend to go to the Hino worship house, either to ask God and Jesus for help, for a blessing, or sometimes ask Rei's grandfather, Rei, for help. Yeah. But at the end of the day, but they never really, Rei doesn't really talk about her worship that much. And most of the time, and when Zoisite goes after Rei's grandfather and both take Sadiq and Viswan, and he shifted into Athene, and God and Jesus working through, Sailor Moon heals him, but his might and strength was strong enough. God and Jesus kept him well when he was knocked off the top of the worship house by Zoisite and both of Viz and Dequan, and also helped cast out the fiend that Lucifer had taken over him, working through Zoisite. But with Sailor Moon, God and Jesus working through Sailor Moon, that healed him. But you see, he does also help Chad overcome his fears, and Chad still works there as a learner to Rei's grandfather. And sooner or later, Rei, Sailor Mars, Sailor Red World soon falls in love with Chad years later. Well, anyway, I'm getting way off track. The thing is that the only two warships that come up in Sailor Moon is CHRISTDOM and Shintoism, or whatever the English word for that would be. They handle it unlike, though. And a lot of folks out there, might wonder, why did CHRISTDOM and Shintoism both be offshoot into Sailor Moon? They would say, Nako Takaguchi was Buddhist, and if Buddhist is a worship, I don't know if it is or not. Some Buddhists say it is, some Buddhism folks say it's not. Now, at the end of the day, I think that she did put some of that in her book, but I think that Toei put that into the book because around that time in Dawnland, there were two warships that were, having a following, CHRISTDOM and Shintoism. And I just think that they also took freedoms when they made the drawing show. Things that may have been said or done in the book didn't really show up in the drawing show, and things that happened in the drawing show didn't happen in the book, and things that happened in the book didn't happen in the drawing. Okay. Now, all right, if you like this film, then follow me over here at Sailor Moon for Life. I, Sailor Neptune, Sailor SeaWorld Michelle, and I'll see you later.